America is facing its worst opioid crisis as federal agents uncover a shocking criminal network hidden within law enforcement. In Tennessee, an FBI raid on a luxury mansion owned by veteran detectives Hassan Ali Muhammad and Amina Abdullahi Ibrahim exposed over $6 million in cash, gold, weapons, and the frozen body of missing CIA agent Ethan Carter. Investigators revealed the couple secretly ran a $128 million fentanyl and counterfeit pill operation tied to the CJNG cartel, using police access to erase alerts and protect shipments across multiple states. Ethan Carter's murder exposed a nationwide criminal pipeline embedded inside U.S. institutions. Leaders promised reform. Agencies promised crackdowns. Yet behind the scenes, something far darker was growing, quietly, efficiently, and invisibly. Not in border deserts, not in cartel jungles, but inside American neighborhoods, inside law enforcement, inside the system itself. At exactly 3:15 a.m. in Tennessee, federal agents surrounded a massive silent mansion tucked away from public view. The house belonged to two respected veteran detectives, Hassan Ali Muhammad and Amina Abdullahi Ibrahim. To the outside world, they were decorated officers, trusted, experienced, untouchable. What federal agents discovered inside would shatter that illusion forever. The command was given. Flashbangs exploded through the night. Windows rattled. Doors were breached. FBI teams moved room to room with precision, their flashlights cutting through darkness that had hidden secrets for years. In the basement, agents opened a reinforced steel door. Inside, they found 2 Glock pistols, crates of ammunition, and stacks of cash wrapped like bricks. More than $6 million. Heavy gold bars lay wrapped in cloth, but nothing prepared them for what came next. Against the back wall stood an industrial freezer. When agents forced it open, they found a suitcase inside. When the suitcase was unzipped, time seemed to stop. Bricks. More than $6 million. Heavy gold bars lay wrapped in cloth, but nothing prepared them for what came next. Against the back wall stood an industrial freezer. When agents forced it open, they found a suitcase inside. When the suitcase was unzipped, time seemed to stop. Inside was a frozen human body, folded unnaturally, face bruised, eyes lifeless. The man had been missing for 4 months. DNA confirmation would later reveal the truth. The body belonged to CIA agent Ethan Carter, age 47. The mansion was not a home. It was an execution site. At the time of his disappearance, Ethan was tracking a dangerous fentanyl pipeline linked to the CJNG cartel, one of the most violent drug organizations in the world. But this case was different. The numbers didn't add up. Shipments were moving too smoothly, too cleanly, too protected. 3 days before he vanished, Ethan sent a final message to his supervisor. "I found it. The missing link." It was the last time anyone heard his voice. When agents entered Ethan's home, they found signs of a violent struggle. A shattered lamp, blood droplets on the carpet, his laptop destroyed, the hard drive removed. His case files gone, especially those involving Tennessee. Only one thing remained: handwritten notes. 2 names: Hassan Ali Muhammad, Amina Abdullahi Ibrahim. At first, investigators refused to believe it. The names belonged to respected detectives, but phone records, timelines, and access logs pointed to one unavoidable truth. Hassan controlled logistics. Over 300 undocumented cargo transfers moved through multiple states under his coordination. Shipments that passed checkpoints because police systems said they were clean. Amina controlled chemicals. Over 100 precursor deliveries, disguised as legitimate lab shipments, moved through approved routes with forged documentation. Their law enforcement access became their greatest weapon. It was in bundled cash, neatly stacked, evidence of extensive laundering operations linked to offshore accounts. Ambassador Vega himself was apprehended attempting to flee through a service corridor. His diplomatic immunity had been nullified. No flag, no treaty, no international protocol could shield him from the consequences of his actions. Law enforcement history. Simultaneously, coordinated raids struck safe houses, warehouses, and financial fronts across Texas, seizing vehicles, freezing bank accounts, and detaining key associates of the network. Within hours, a sprawling criminal infrastructure that had operated with impunity collapsed entirely. Yet even as arrests were made and evidence secured, investigators turned their attention to the broader, human dimension of the network's operations. Medical examiner records, once accepted at face value, were revisited. Deaths previously classified as natural causes or unexplained incidents were now linked directly to trafficking borrow routes and the illicit operations of the network. Missing persons reports matched shipment manifests, revealing patterns of exploitation, trafficking, and in some cases, organized murder. Families across Texas had lived for years in quiet anguish, unaware that the unexplained disappearances and sudden deaths were symptomatic of a sprawling criminal enterprise. Border towns that had reported rising disappearances, sometimes attributed to migration or chance, were now understood as nodes in an extensive human trafficking network. Suburban hospitals had quietly documented surges in overdoses, particularly fentanyl, that far exceeded prior trends. Schools reported increasingly potent narcotics circulating among students. Every incident, once considered isolated or coincidental, was now clearly part of a deliberately engineered supply chain emanating from diplomatic channels. Internal reviews exposed systemic failures within federal and local institutions. Multiple warnings had been filed, reports had been made, yet agencies operated in isolation, seeing fragments of the truth but never the full picture. A culture of misplaced trust had replaced scrutiny. Senior officials had deferred to reputation, believing that titles such as former CIA director or foreign ambassador guaranteed integrity. Local officers, constrained by protocol or fear of political repercussion, dismissed red flags. The result? A network thriving in plain sight, shielded not only by law, but by complacency. Protocols were overhauled in response. Diplomatic shipments now undergo rigorous weight audits, ensuring that cargo matches declared contents, even when labeled under official cover. Interagency data sharing has been completely restructured, creating centralized databases capable of identifying anomalies across intelligence, customs, and law enforcement channels. Medical examiners received new guidelines to identify deaths potentially linked to trafficking and chemical exposure. Community reporting channels were expanded, ensuring that tips from residents could no longer be ignored or siloed. Evan Marshall's actions, once dismissed and tragically penalized by his untimely death, were recognized as the catalyst that exposed this criminal enterprise. His diligence, attention to detail, and commitment to ethical duty initiated a chain reaction that ultimately dismantled a sophisticated operation that had poisoned communities for nearly a decade. Although the cost was devastating, the exposure of this network demonstrated the power of accountability, vigilance, and persistent investigative work. The implications of this operation extend far beyond Texas. The operation set a precedent. No individual, no matter their office or international standing, is above the law. Diplomatic privilege, once considered inviolable, cannot be abused to shield organized crime. The operation demonstrated that power without oversight is not merely dangerous. It is destructive, capable of infiltrating institutions, corrupting officials, and endangering citizens. Moreover, the investigation revealed that the greatest threats do not always arrive at national borders. Sometimes they emerge quietly, hidden within the very institutions entrusted to uphold safety and justice. Intelligence, diplomacy, and law enforcement, when compromised, can provide cover for criminal enterprises operating at global scale. The Vega Reeves network exploited these vulnerabilities, demonstrating how expertise, authority, and trust can be weaponized to perpetrate atrocities without immediate detection. This historic operation also underscored the need for institutional resilience. Accountability measures, transparency, interagency cooperation, and community engagement that are essential to preventing similar threats. Comprehensive audits, continuous oversight, and the integration of citizen reports with federal intelligence channels are now recognized as indispensable safeguards against corruption and exploitation. It is a recognition that institutional vigilance must be active, not passive, that systemic integrity requires constant attention, not periodic review. The human impact of this network, previously obscured by layers of secrecy and corruption, is now being documented. Families affected by disappearances, overdoses, and organized exploitation are receiving long overdue attention. Communities are beginning the slow process of recovery, aware that the invisible machinery of exploitation once operated within their neighborhoods. Mental health resources, community policing programs, and federal victim support initiatives have been expanded to address both the immediate and residual effects of the criminal operation. Evan Marshall's legacy serves as a reminder that individual courage matters. One person's attention to detail, commitment to ethics, and willingness to challenge authority can catalyze systemic change, even in the face of overwhelming institutional inertia. His actions not only exposed a vast criminal network, but initiated reforms that will strengthen the nation's ability to detect and dismantle similar threats in the future. The operation against Ambassador Vega and Jonathan P. Reeves conveys a powerful lesson. Governance and oversight cannot be symbolic. Titles and positions do not guarantee morality or accountability. Legal and institutional frameworks must remain dynamic, capable of responding to novel threats that exploit gaps in oversight and enforcement. When individuals operate above scrutiny, communities suffer. When transparency is enforced and accountability is real, justice prevails. Finally, this operation demonstrates that vigilance is a collective responsibility. Citizens, federal agents, local law enforcement, and international partners must remain aware, engaged, and prepared to act when anomalies arise. Silence and inaction are enablers of corruption. Awareness, diligence, and courage are protective. The collapse of the Vega-Reeves network proves that no corruption, however well hidden, is beyond discovery when institutions and individuals act with integrity. Law enforcement history. They prove that systemic corruption, even when shielded by diplomatic immunity and powerful titles, can be exposed and prosecuted. They remind the nation that accountability matters, vigilance is essential, and justice must be impartial. The threat may have been domestic in nature, emerging from the misuse of trust and authority, but the response was equally comprehensive, demonstrating that American institutions, when mobilized with determination and precision, can confront even the most complex and audacious threats. As the dust settles on this unprecedented operation, the lesson remains. Power without oversight is vulnerable to abuse. Institutions must be constantly questioned, analyzed, and reformed. Citizens, whistleblowers, and investigators play a crucial role in safeguarding democracy. Evan Marshall's courage, the precision of FBI tactical units, the discipline of Marine Rapid Response teams, and the coordination of federal agencies collectively send an unmistakable message. No title is above the law, no flag shields crime, and no former office grants lifelong immunity. Accountability matters. Vigilance protects society. Justice must prevail. A major federal operation in Texas exposed a deeply embedded foreign drug cartel network involving a former CIA director and a sitting Mexican ambassador. FBI raids led to the arrest of Jonathan P. Reeves after agents seized large quantities of fentanyl and heroin, illegal weapons, and millions of dollars in cash from his residence. The investigation revealed that Ambassador Alejandro Cruz Vega abused diplomatic immunity to move more than 40 drug shipments into the United States. Institutions was dismantled. Sovereignty in modern history. What began as a routine inspection quietly exposed a criminal network so deeply embedded inside government systems that investigators initially struggled to accept its scale. Drugs, weapons, money laundering, and human trafficking were not being smuggled through hidden tunnels or remote borders. They were moving through protected diplomatic channels, shielded by titles, immunity, and institutional trust. Everything began during a late-night shift at a Texas port of entry.